When Evan said, "I just need time," I believed him. I believed his hesitation was love in disguise, a careful kind of love, one that wanted to be sure before promising forever. After 3 years together, I'd grown used to his thoughtful pauses, his way of overanalyzing everything from career choices to dinner reservations. So when he said he wasn't ready for marriage, I didn't panic. I nodded, smiled, and told myself, he's worth the wait. But love, I learned, doesn't ask for patience. It tests it until it breaks. We met at a friend's gallery opening. I remember the smell of paint thinner, the way his laugh carried across the room like a spark that found me instantly. He was magnetic, not in the loud, showy way some men are, but with quiet confidence that drew you in. He spoke like every sentence had weight, like the world slowed for him. I was working in communications then, still finding my footing after a rough breakup, and he seemed like the kind of man who made chaos feel manageable. For 3 years, we built something that looked perfect from the outside. Sunday breakfasts, weekend hikes, inside jokes whispered under shared umbrellas. Our friends called us the stable couple. I loved him with the kind of certainty that makes you rearrange your future around someone else's gravity. But around the 2.5-year mark, things began to shift. Small at first, late replies to texts, forgotten plans, a vague distractedness when I talked about my day. He'd sit across from me at dinner, nodding at all the right moments, but with eyes that seemed far away. When I asked if something was wrong, he'd kiss my forehead and say, "Just work stuff, baby. You know how it is." Except I didn't know how it was anymore. Then, one night, I brought it up. We'd just come back from a friend's engagement party. Watching another couple promise forever had stirred something in me, a longing, a restlessness. On the drive home, I reached over, placed my hand on his, and asked softly, "Do you ever think about us? About what's next?" He went quiet. The silence stretched until it felt suffocating. Finally, he sighed, eyes fixed on the road. "I do, Marissa, but I'm not ready for marriage yet. Not now." It was the tone that broke me. Not angry, not dismissive, just final. He parked outside my apartment, leaned over, and gave me a smile I now recognize as practiced. "You're everything I want. I just need time to get there." I forced a laugh, though my chest ached. "How much time?" He chuckled. "You can't put a deadline on love." That night, I cried quietly into my pillow, trying to convince myself it was fine, that he was just scared, that if I waited, he'd come around. But 2 months later, he proposed to another woman. I found out on Instagram. The photo hit me like a car crash, Evan, down on one knee, holding a ring box in front of a woman named Leela Hart, a lifestyle blogger with 500,000 followers and the kind of curated life that gleamed through the screen. Her caption read, "He asked, and I said yes. I forever starts now. #LuckyInLove." I stared at it for a long time, the world narrowing until there was only that image, his face, his smile, the same one he used to give me after saying he wasn't ready. My stomach turned. The post was dated exactly 7 weeks after our last conversation about marriage. 7 weeks after he told me he needed time. I scrolled through her profile, each photo cutting deeper. There he was again, holding her hand at brunch, kissing her forehead, carrying her on his back in a field of sunflowers. Every caption screamed of new love, devotion, future. I felt sick. At first, I wanted to pretend I didn't care. I deleted his number, avoided mutual friends, drowned myself in work. But pain that deep doesn't fade, it festers. Especially when betrayal is dressed up as happiness for the world to see. 2 weeks later, I found the box of letters. They were in my closet, tied together with a navy ribbon. Old-fashioned, handwritten letters he'd given me during our first year together. Pages of tenderness, promises, and love that now felt like lies. One in particular caught my eye. Dated February 10th, 3 years in, when he'd been too busy to see me. In it, he'd written, You're the only person who feels like home. I don't know where my life's going, but as long as you're in it, I'll be okay." The same week, I found out from a mutual acquaintance that he'd met Leela at a business conference. My breath went shallow. That meant when he wrote that letter, those beautiful words, he'd already started seeing her. The clarity hit like ice water. He hadn't just moved on quickly, he'd overlapped me, lied to both of us, told me he wasn't ready while rehearsing proposals to someone else. And that's when the anger crystallized into something sharper. Purpose. Revenge, when done right, isn't loud. It's quiet, surgical, controlled. I spent a week crafting my plan. I didn't want to destroy him publicly. That would make me look bitter, desperate. No, I wanted his shiny new fairy tale to crumble from within, to let the truth rot it from the inside. The opportunity came sooner than expected. Leela posted a story about their upcoming engagement party, an elegant rooftop affair celebrating love and new beginnings. I smiled when I saw it, because I already knew what I was going to do. I wrote a letter, handwritten, like his. "Dear Leela, congratulations on your engagement. I imagine Evan told you he's always been certain about you, that he's never felt this way before. He said the same things to me not so long ago. I thought you should see what his promises look like in writing." I enclosed photocopies of 3 of his letters, the ones with dates overlapping their relationship, the ones where he told me he couldn't wait to marry me one day. I didn't sign my name. I didn't need to. The truth didn't require a signature. Then I mailed it. First class, no return address. 3 days later, I saw her Instagram go silent. The posts stopped abruptly. The hashtag heavy captions vanished. By the weekend, the engagement photos were deleted. The next morning, a mutual friend texted me, "Did you hear? Leela called off the engagement. Apparently, she found out he was still seeing someone when they met." I didn't respond. I just sat there, the sun spilling across my kitchen table, coffee going cold in my hands. I thought revenge would feel triumphant, that I'd savor it like victory. But what I felt was something quieter, a strange, calm release. Still, the story didn't end there. A week later, Evan showed up at my apartment. He looked wrecked. Creased suit, dark circles, the confidence stripped away. "Marissa," he said, voice raw, "can we talk?" I leaned against the doorway. "I don't think there's much left to say." "She left me," he muttered. "Said she got letters from you." I arched a brow. "Letters? You used to love writing those." He ran a hand through his hair, eyes pleading. "I messed up. I know that. But you didn't have to ruin my life." I studied him. The man who once swore he wasn't ready to marry me, now furious that his new engagement had collapsed. "No, Evan," I said softly. "I didn't ruin your life. You did that yourself. I just sent the evidence." He stared at me for a long time, realization dawning behind the pain. "You always were good with words," he whispered bitterly. "And you," I replied, "were always good at using them for lies." I closed the door. For weeks afterward, mutual acquaintances tried to fill me in. How he lost clients, how his company suspended him for personal misconduct, how Leela's followers had turned on him after she posted a cryptic message about trust and betrayal. I ignored all of it. I didn't need updates. I'd already moved on. I poured my energy into myself. Therapy, a new city, a promotion I'd earned without anyone's help. For the first time in years, my future didn't hinge on someone else's approval. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about that first evening at the gallery, the sound of his laughter, the feeling of being seen. But the memory no longer stings. It just reminds me how easily charm can mask deceit. One afternoon, months later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was one of his old photographs. Me, laughing, head thrown back, the picture he'd once kept in his wallet. On the back, scrawled in his handwriting, were 4 words. "You were my home." I folded it once and tossed it into the fireplace. The paper curled, the edges glowing orange before turning to ash. Then I poured myself a glass of wine, opened my laptop, and began writing again. Not love letters this time, but something better. A blog called The Second Draft, where I wrote anonymously about betrayal, resilience, and rebuilding. It grew faster than I expected. Women wrote to me from everywhere, thanking me, sharing their own stories of love turned sour, of finding themselves again. Each message reminded me why I'd done what I did, not for vengeance, but for clarity. Because sometimes exposing a lie isn't about revenge, it's about reclaiming your truth. And my truth is this: I loved him, he betrayed me, and I walked away stronger. That's the ending no one posts about, the quiet kind, where you choose yourself, burn the past, and finally feel light again.
You've just stepped into her revenge side, where every wound finds its justice, and every silence ends with truth. If her story struck a chord, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Another secret waits in the next video. See how her revenge begins.